Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, we will learn and understand a very interesting chapter of class 8, Bepin Choudhury's Lapse of Memory by Satyajit Ray. What if one day you realize that you have lost the memory of some incidents of your life? Confused, bewildered, isn't it? Similar situation happened with Bepin Choudhury. What were the incidents? Let's read in this story with a twist at the end. Bepin Choudhury's Lapse of Memory. Do you have a good memory? Has your memory ever played any tricks on you? Forgetfulness often puts you in a tight spot, that means difficult situation. But forgetting a part of your life completely may drive you crazy. In this story, Bepin Babu goes nearly crazy because he cannot recollect his stay at Ranchi. He has never been to Ranchi. He insists, though there are many witnesses to the contrary. What is the suspense all about? So in this chapter, Bepin Choudhury could not remember his stay in Ranchi, although there are many witnesses, there are many people who can prove that he was in Ranchi. So what is all these suspense about? Let's read in the story. The important characters in the story are Bepin Choudhury, who is also known as Bepin Babu, Parimal Ghosh, Dinesh Mukherjee, Chunni Lal, and Dr. Chanda. Since it's a long story, we will not read each and every lines. I will explain them to you and I will also explain new and difficult words. Every Monday while coming back from his work, Bepin Babu would stop at Kalicharan's shop in New Market to buy books. He would read crime stories, ghost stories and thrillers, and he would buy at least 5 books at a time so that it can last through the entire week. Bepin Babu lived alone. He was not a good mixer. That means he didn't used to mix up with people around. He had very few friends and he did not like spending time in idle chat. That means useless conversation. But today at Kalicharan's shop, Bepin Babu felt that somebody was observing him from close quarters. That means from a very close distance. And when Bepin Babu turned around, he found that a person with round face, meek looking, that means quite an humble looking man, was looking at Bepin Babu. And when Bepin Babu turned, he smiled at him. That means the person smiled at Bepin Babu. And Bepin Babu said that, "I don't think you recognize me." Bepin Babu again asked, "Have we met before?" And now the man looked surprised and he said that, "We have met for every day for a whole week. And I arranged a car for you to take you to Honeydew Falls in 1958 in Ranchi." And then he introduced himself that, "My name is Parimal Ghosh." Now Bepin Babu surprisingly said, "Ranchi?" Bepin Babu realized that now this person was making a mistake and not he himself. Bepin Babu had never been to Ranchi. He had many times thought of going to Ranchi, but he could never make it. Bepin Babu smiled and said, "Do you even know who I am?" And then this man raised his eyebrows in surprise. He bit his tongue and said, "Do I know you? Who doesn't know you? You are Bepin Choudhury." Bepin Babu now turned towards the bookshelf, not paying much attention to the person. And he said that, "Still you are making mistake. One often does make a mistake. I have never been to Ranchi." The man now laughed aloud and he said, "What are you saying, Mr. Choudhury? You went to Ranchi and you had a fall in Honeydew where you cut your right knee. And I brought you iodine. I also arranged a car for you to go to Nitharhat the next day. But you couldn't go because you had a pain from the previous day's fall. Can't you recall anything?" this person asked Bepin Babu. "Somebody else you knew was also in Ranchi at that time," he further said. That Mr. Dinesh Mukherjee was also there in Ranchi at that time. "You stayed there in a bungalow because you did not like hotel food and you preferred your own meals to be cooked by a bawarchi." Bawarchi means a cook. Mr. Mukherjee stayed with his sister and you had a big argument about moon landing with Mr. Mukherjee. And then this person said that, "I will tell you more, that you always carried a bag which has books in it when you go for sightseeing trips. Am I right or not?" he asked. Now Bepin Babu was quite surprised. He spoke quietly. His eyes were still on his book. And then he asked, "Which month in 58 are you talking about?" And the man said, "October." Then Bepin Babu said, "No sir, I spent puja in October in 58 with a friend in Kanpur. You are making a mistake. Good day. So Bipin Babu told that no, I was in 58 in October for puja. I was in Kanpur with a friend. But this man didn't go, and he didn't even stop talking. And he said, this is very strange. One evening I had tea with you in veranda of your bungalow, where you spoke about your family, and you said that you had no children, you had lost your wife 10 years ago, you had also lost your only brother who died insane. Insane means mad, which is why you don't like to visit the mental hospital in Ranchi. Now Bipin Babu paid for the books and he was about to leave the shop. The man was still looking at him in utter disbelief. That means in complete surprise. Bipin Babu's car was parked in Vetram Street by the lighthouse. He got inside and told his driver to drive by Ganga. His car, when it was at Strand Road, Bipin Babu felt that he should not have paid much attention to this intruder. Intruder means one who interferes. He had never been to Ranchi. There is no question about it. It was inconceivable. That means it was unbelievable that he can forget such an important incident which took place just 6 or 7 years ago. He had an excellent memory. Still, Bipin Babu's head reeled. That means he was shocked and confused. Is he losing his mind? He thought. But how is it possible? He was working daily in his office. He was in a big firm. He was doing a responsible job. And he wasn't aware of any such incident which has gone wrong. But only today he spoke for an hour in an important meeting. So he is in such a big firm, in a responsible job, in a responsible position. How can he lose his mind? Losing one's mind means turning mad. And yet this man, he knew so much about Bipin Babu. He even seemed to know some close, some very personal details. The bag of books, wife's dead, brother's insanity. The only mistake that this man made was having gone to Ranchi. It was not a mistake but a deliberate lie, Bipin Babu thought. Deliberate lie means done purposefully, because in 58 during the pujas he was in Kanpur at his friend's house, Haridas Bagchi. And Bipin Babu just had to write to Haridas Bagchi to prove it wrong. But then Bipin Babu suddenly realized that Haridas Bagchi has left for Japan along with his wife and some weeks ago, and Bipin doesn't have his address. But where was the need of any proof? Bipin Babu thought to himself. He himself was fully aware that he had never been to Ranchi. The river breeze was bracing. Soothing air was flowing. Bracing means stimulating, making you feel healthy and full of energy. Yet there was a slight discomfort in Bipin Babu's mind, and around Hastings, Bipin Babu decided to roll up his trouser sleeve to see if there is actually a cut. And there was indeed a mark which was old and about an inch long. It was impossible to tell when that one has that injury happened. So Parimal Ghosh has spoken about this injury that he got around Hudru Fall, and there was an injury, but Bipin Babu couldn't recall how did he get it. Had he never had a fall as a boy and cut his knee? So he was just thinking, has he ever cut his knee as a boy? He tried to recall such incident, but he couldn't. Then Bipin Babu suddenly thought of Dinesh Mukherjee, the man that Parimal Ghosh has said was in Ranchi at the same time. And the best thing surely was to ask Mr. Mukherjee. He lived quite near in Banindam Street. What about going right now? Then Bipin Babu thought that what about going right now and ask him? But then if he had really never been to Ranchi, and what if Dinesh thinks that Bipin Babu has turned mad? He is asking for confirmation if he has actually been to Ranchi. So he would probably conclude that Bipin Babu has gone mad. If Bipin Babu asks Dinesh Mukherjee about this detail, then Dinesh Mukherjee will think that Bipin Babu had gone mad, and it would be ridiculous to ask him. Going nuts means becoming mad, and ridiculous means very silly. So Bipin Babu thought that it would be very silly to ask Dinesh Mukherjee. And he knew how ruthless, that means cruel, Dinesh Mukherjee's sarcasm could be. Sarcasm means saying something and meaning something else in order to criticize one or make them feel silly. It is kind of taunting. Now, sipping a cold drink in his air-conditioned living room, Bipin Babu felt uneasy. Such a nuisance. Just because they have nothing else to do, they go about getting into other people's hair. Getting into other people's hair means interfering with or annoying others. So he was thinking this about Parmal Ghosh, that he had nothing to do, so he is interfering into my life. But after dinner, Bipin Babu went to bed with his new thrillers and forgot about the man in the new market. Next day in his office, Bipin Babu noticed that with every passing hour, the previous day's encounter, the meeting with that man, was coming on in his mind. And if this man knew so much about Bipin Babu, how could he make such a mistake telling about Ranchi trip? That means that person knew so much intimate personal detail of Bipin Babu. So how can he make a mistake of telling Bipin Babu about the Ranchi trip? Just before lunch, Bipin Babu decided to call Dinesh Mukherjee. It was better to call him so that you will not see him face to face and you will save that embarrassment. So he dialed Dinesh Mukherjee's number and said hello. Is that Dinesh? Well, what's the news? So it was Mr. Dinesh from other side. And then Bipin Babu said that I just wanted to find out if you remember an incident that happened in 58. Mr. Mukherjee said, what incident? Were you in Calcutta right through that year? That's the first thing I have got to know. Wait, just a minute, 58, just let me check in my diary. So Mr. Bipin Babu first asked, were you in Calcutta in 58? And Dinesh Mukherjee said, let me check my diary. And for a minute there was a silence, and Bipin Babu can feel his heart beat. He was very nervous. He was sweating. And then Dinesh Mukherjee said, yes, I've got it. I've been out twice. So he said that I have been out of Calcutta twice. Once in February, which was in Kashinagar, two nephews' wedding. And then, but you should know about this one, the trip to Ranchi. So Dinesh Mukherjee said that one time I went to Kashinagar and second time I went to Ranchi, which you should know. But because you were also there. But what's all this sleuthing? Sleuthing means investigation or question. So Mr. Mukherjee confirmed that Bipin Babu was in Ranchi and he was just asking, why are you inquiring all this? No, I just wanted to. Anyways, thanks. So Bipin Babu said, just avoided him by saying that I just wanted to. And then he slammed the receiver and gripped his head with his hand. So he held his head with his hand. He felt his head swimming. That means he was feeling very, very confused. A chill seemed to spread over his body. He felt scared. He felt as if he was turning mad. There were sandwiches in his tiffin box, but he was not at all hungry. He lost his appetite. And then after lunchtime, Bipin Babu realized that he couldn't possibly carry on sitting on his desk and working. This has never happened in 24 years he had been with this firm. He had the reputation for being a tireless, conscious worker. Reputation means good name, conscious means careful and correct. But today his hand was in a whirl. In a whirl means he was confused. He was not able to think. So in 24 years of his career in the office, he has never made a mistake. He has been very conscious. But today he was totally confused. Back home at 2:30, Bipin Babu lay down in his bed and he tried to gather his wits together. Gather his wits means he tried to make an effort to be calm and think clearly. And he knew that it was not possible to lose just one memory through an injury in the head. But he didn't know of a single instance of someone remembering everything except one particular incident, and a fairly recent and significant one at that. So he thought that this is very strange that a person remembers everything except just one incident. And is it possible by getting some kind of injury in your head? He was just thinking. And he had always wanted to go to Ranchi, and he went there. He had done things and he does not even remember. That was utterly impossible. It was impossible that he has gone, but he couldn't remember. At about 7:30, Bipin Babu's servant came and told Bipin Babu that Chunni Babu has come and he says that it is very important. Now Bipin Babu knew that what Chunni Babu had come for. Chunni Lal was Bipin Babu's school friend and he was going through a rough time. Rough time means difficult situation, and lately had been coming to see him about a job, and he had been coming to see Bipin Babu about a job. Rough time, difficult situation. So Bipin Babu knew that it was not possible to help Chunni Lal, so he was trying to avoid him. So, but this person kept coming up like a bad penny. That means coming to a place where you are not welcome. So, Bipin Babu was trying to avoid Chunnilal, but Chunnilal kept coming up. So, Bipin Babu sent a word to him that he couldn't meet Chunni now, and not even in several weeks. But as soon as the servant stepped out of the room to give this message to Chunnilal, it struck in Bipin Babu's mind that maybe Chunnilal remembers something about the 58 trip and there is no harm in asking him. So he went down quickly the stairs and in the living room where Chunnilal was about to leave. But seeing Bipin Babu came, he stopped hopefully. Bipin Babu didn't beat around the bush. That means he came to the point straight. He straight came to the point and he asked him, listen Chunni, I want to ask you something. Since you have a good memory, have you been seeing me off and on for a long time? Just throw your mind back and tell me. Throw your mind back means think about a past incident and tell me, did I go to Ranchi in 58? So he asked Chunni also, did I go to Ranchi in 58? Chunni said 58 or 59. You're sure that I did go to Ranchi? So Mr. Bipin Babu said that means you're sure that you went to Ranchi. And Chunnilal look of amazement was not unmixed with worry. So Chunnilal must have looked very amazed, surprised, and it was also mixed with worries. Do you mean you have a doubt that you have gone at all? So Chunnilal asked, do you doubt it? Do you remember clearly? So Bipin Babu asked, did I go? Do you clearly remember? Chunnilal sat down on the sofa staring at Bipin Babu and told that, have you taken any kind of drug or something? As far as I know, you have a clean record of having consuming any such kind of thing. And I know that our old friendship doesn't mean anything to you, but at least you had a good memory. So Chunnilal was kind of taunting him that maybe friendship doesn't mean anything to you, but you always had a good memory and you can't remember the Ranchi trip. How can you forget about it? Bipin Babu had to turn away from Chunni's incredulous stare. Incredulous means unbelievable, unwilling to believe something. So then Chunnilal asked, do you remember what was my last job? And Bipin Babu said, of course, it was a travel agency. So Chunnilal said that you remember my job, but you don't remember that I fixed your railway booking to Ranchi, and then I went to station to see you off, and one of the fan in your compartment was not working, so I called an electrician and got the fan fixed. Have you forgotten everything? Whatever is the matter with you, you don't look well, so I should go. And Bipin Babu also sighed. He took a long breath and he shook his head. And Chunnilal said that you have been working. Bipin Babu said that I am working too hard, so that must be the reason. I must consult a specialist. I must talk to a doctor. And doubtless it was Bipin Babu's condition which made Chunnilal leave without mentioning anything about the job. Because of that whole incident, Chunnilal went from there without even asking for a job. Now Paresh Chanda, he was a young physician. He had bright eyes, sharp nose, and he also became thoughtful. He also started thinking when Bipin Babu told him about the symptoms, about that incident. And Bipin Babu told him desperately that you must cure me of this horrible illness. I can't tell you how it is affecting my work. Bipin Babu was completely affected by that. Dr. Chanda told him that Mr. Choudhury, I have never dealt with such case as yours, and it is quite outside my field of experience, because I have only one suggestion which will not do any harm, but it's worth a try. So Bipin Babu leaned forward to listen to Mr. Chanda, and Mr. Chanda said that as far as I can understand, and I think you should also be of the same opinion, that you must have been to Ranchi, but due to some unknown reason, the entire episode has gone out of your mind. So what I suggest is that you go to Ranchi once again. The place may remind you of your trip. That is possible. This is not possible. This is all I can do at that moment. And he said that now I am prescribing you some nerve tonic and tranquilizer. Tranquilizer is a medicine which is used to reduce stress. And sleep is also very essential. And these symptoms will get more pronounced, more strong. These simple symptoms will get more strong if you don't sleep now. Now, Bipin Babu was somewhat better the next morning. After breakfast, he called his office and gave some instruction, and then booked a first class ticket for Ranchi the same evening. Procured means got with a little difficulty. Now, getting off the train at Ranchi station next morning, Bipin Babu at once realized that he had never been here before. He came out of the station, took a taxi, and drove around the town for a while, and then he realized that the streets, building, hotel, bazaar, everything, none of this he had ever seen before. He did not even have a slightest acquaintance, that means never seen or met before. Now he thought that he should take a trip to Honeydew Falls, maybe he would remember something there. So he didn't believe that he had come here before. Still he wanted to be sure before leaving Ranchi. So he arranged for a car and left for Honeydew Falls in the afternoon. And at 5 o'clock in the same afternoon in Honeydew, two Gujarati gentlemen, two picnickers, discovered Bipin Babu lying unconscious next to a big huge boulder, a big huge stone. And when he came around, that means when he regained his conscious, the first thing Bipin Babu said was, "I am finished, there is no hope left." Bipin Babu became so hopeless because he couldn't recall anything and he was lying unconscious near Honeydew Falls. Now next morning, Bipin Babu was back in Calcutta, and he realized that there was truly no hope for him. He was very scared that he is losing his memory, and soon he thought that he would lose everything, his work, his confidence, his balance of mind, and he is also going to end in asylum, in mental hospital like his brother. Bipin Babu did not want to think anymore. He couldn't think more than that. And then he called Dr. Chanda and asked him to come over. Then after a shower, he just got into his bed with an ice bag on his head. Just then his servant came and he brought him a letter. There was which somebody has left in the letter box. It was in a greenish envelope with Bipin Babu's name in it, in red ink on it. Above the name is said urgent and confidential. So on that letter it was written urgent and confidential. In spite of his condition, Bipin Babu was feeling that he should open the letter and read it. So he tore open the envelope and took out the letter, and this is what the letter read. Dear Bipin, I had no idea that affluence means being wealthy, would bring about the kind of change in you that it has done. Was it so difficult for you to help out an old friend down on his luck? Down on his luck means going through bad days. I have no money, so my resources are limited. What I have is imagination, a part of which I used in retribution. In retribution of means as a punishment of your unfeeling behavior. Well, you will be all right again now. A novel I have written is being considered by a publisher. If he likes it enough, I'll see me through the next few months. Yours, Chunilal. So the letter was from Chunilal. It was in which it was written that, dear Bipin, I had no idea that being wealthy will bring so much of change in you that it would be difficult for you to help an old friend who was going through bad days. I have no money, but I have imagination. A part of my imagination I have used as a punishment for your unfriendly behavior towards me. And now everything will be all right because a publisher has considered my new book and it will help me with money for some days for the next few months. And when Dr. Chanda came, Bipin Babu said, I am fine. All I called for, I am back from Ranchi. As soon as I got off the train, everything I could recall. And Dr. Chanda said it was a unique case and I shall certainly write about it in my medical journal. And then Bipin Babu said that the reason I called you was that I am feeling pain in my hip because of the fall I had in Ranchi. So can you prescribe me a painkiller? So he did not tell anything to Dr. Chanda that how he had been fooled, how he had been tricked by his own friend Chunilal. So have you understood what has happened actually, children? It was actually a whole story created by Chunilal. Mr. Bipin Babu, he did not have any lapse of memory, but Chunilal wanted to teach him a lesson for being unfriendly, for not supporting him in his needs. So he created all this situation. and included Parimal Ghosh and Dinesh Mukherjee also in it. He tried to prove that Bipin Babu had a lapse of memory. Bipin Babu has actually never visited Ranchi. That episode never happened. So it was a punishment that Chunni Lal gave to Bipin Babu. Wasn't it an interesting story? Now here are the question answers, students. You can just pause the video at various pages and go through the question answers. Pause here, go through the question answers, note them down. Or you can try them yourself and then cross check. So I will stop the video here. I hope you have liked this interesting chapter. I will see you in my next video. Till then, keep reading. Bye bye. Take care.